The Bamboo Project wholesaling video starts in 3, 2.
Welcome to the Bamboo Project YouTube channel. My name is Donivan Gray.
And my name is Melissa Burnett. We currently have over 250 videos on our channel of our Dr. Sebi inspired diet, travel vlogs, sports, music, clothing, podcast, beauty, and everything us. We live in New York City, and this is episode 12 of our virtual wholesaling series, where we give weekly updates on our journey to close our first deal.
We started this series for people who want to get into wholesaling, who don't have any mentors, who don't have any money, and want the perspective of people just starting out. Today is January 3rd, and this is last week's update. You want to go first?
Sure. My update is pretty much the same as last week, where I'm not really focusing on wholesaling as much. Funny enough, just a personal thing, we changed our diet back to our normal diet, which is like a vegan diet. So I've been cooking a lot more. I guess I do have a little update. I reached back out to the subject property from the video. I'm not even sure what episode that was. Do you know? So in episode 9, I spoke about a property that I had that I tried to submit to Jerry and his team, and they said that the renovation cost would be like $55,000, even though I personally think it would be $35, and how they did not accept that deal. Now, I reached back out to the seller, to the real estate agent, and I asked her, because it's still on the market, would she be interested in lowering that price down to the $122 that Jerry's team is looking for. Now, she told me that the seller did go down, but only to $130. I reached back out to Jerry's team on the deal review team, and they once again declined the offer because it is not the $122 that they want for the property. I did receive a phone call from a potential cash buyer this morning about that property too. So I'm thinking about going forward with it. I do have to decide today whether or not I want to put it back under contract and then move forward with it. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. But as of right now, I am not too sure what I'm going to do with it. And that's pretty much it. That's all for my update.
My last week has mostly been a lot of team building. It's pretty much been trying to recruit people and just trying to figure out where everybody fits at. It's been really fun for me for the last week. Like I said, I've been talking to people. I've talked to so many people over the last week. I talked to people in Philadelphia, people in Missouri, people in California, people in Baltimore. Shout out to Radon. It's been a whole bunch of people that we've been talking to over the last week. Like I said, I feel like I'm kind of building like an Avengers team. That's what it feels like. I'm having like the person who can do this, person that can do that, and it just feels like we're gonna all come together and end up making a lot of money. I met or talked to somebody in Missouri. Her name is Leandra. She's amazing. Like, she's the GOAT right now because she has put me on so much game. We were on the phone for probably 4 hours combined, just talking and laughing. She's great energy. She's funny. It was like an amazing conversation that we were having. She used to be a handy woman, so she was doing, she knows the prices for contracting. She knows, she has cash buyers. She does wholesaling herself. She's in real estate herself. So she just has so much knowledge, and that's just talking to her and just trying to learn a lot from her. It's just been a great, I guess you could call it a great conversation that we've been having. She also is connected to other people who have a lot of money who can buy multiple properties at a time, all across the whole country. So now I potentially have a cash buyer that works in, as long as the numbers work, they work across the whole country because they're hedge fund managers and things like that. So they have a lot of money to disposable income that they can use for buying properties. So now, like I said before, in the other weeks, I've gotten to a point where I have the ability to acquire leads, and now I have the way to, they call in wholesaling called dispositions. So I have a way to get them out. Now that I have the front end and the back end, I just have to get more deals to put them into the pipeline and then get them pushed out on the other end. So that's kind of what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of weeks. This is actually, obviously the 12th week. So 3 months in, we haven't got a deal yet. And I had thought that we would definitely have a deal within 3 months, which would be 12 weeks, which is today, or which would be this week. And we've had a couple of deals come through and not go through, and a whole bunch of other crazy things. You guys watch the playlist. There's a bunch of stories we've had about what we went through with that. One of the people that I have met through YouTube, they work and live in Philadelphia, and they're a wholesaler also. They do more off market than they do on market. And we got to talking on the phone the other day. It was another great conversation, and he was putting me on the things in Philadelphia. He was putting me on the systems that he uses and apps that he uses. I'm gonna put at the end of the video all the things that he told me about, kind of do like a quick run through everything that he gave me that I should use, because in 2021 I want to do a lot more off market stuff. Once I start making more money on market, I can take that money and put it in the off market, because it seems to me that for off market stuff it's a lot more expensive. Trying to source your leads, then trying to skip trace, paying for all the apps you have to use to be able to do all of those things, whether it be the cold, what is it called, the voiceless messages, voiceless, what is it called? Voiceless rings, something like that, where you can call somebody, leave a ringless voicemail. They have those. They have text blasts where you can send those out. You can hire a virtual assistant. So there's a lot more money that goes into off-market leads. However, all the big numbers that you see on YouTube, I made $40,000, I made $50,000, I made $100,000. A lot of those people usually are doing off-market leads. So there's a bigger margin for you to make in off-market. So it kind of offsets the fact that you're going to be spending more money to make that much money. The difference between that and on market is it's less money you have to put up, but you're more likely going to make a less amount of money on the back end also. But for me, because I'm not working, I don't have any money coming in, I'm doing mostly on market deals so that I can get the money to then push that and put that into off market stuff. I think I seen Jerry one time say that it's, for him, every deal that he does off market is about $3,000 to $5,000 per deal. So he had to spend about $3,000 to $5,000 for every time he does a deal, and I don't have that kind of money to spend to get a deal. I just don't have that. So I'm not going to be doing that. So during that conversation, I was telling him that he's in Philadelphia. I'm like, hey, I have a property from before that Jerry didn't want to pick up. So I'm like, hey, you can have it if you want, because I don't want to go back to it and deal with it. I'm kind of over it. I'm like, it's probably, they lowered the price to this, and now you can go and ask the same price and you can get that deal. He's like, nah, man, do it. He was telling me that what I should do is I should go to the actual seller myself and try and get the deal done, or like send them like a card or something like that and just offer them $129, because the property was listed at 180 and I had got it down for Jerry to 140 with us paying the transfer taxes, which would be 143. But Jerry wanted 135, so I never got that deal done. So he was telling me, the person in Philadelphia was saying, hey, just go to the seller and offer them 129, and that way you don't have to pay, they don't have to pay the fees for the agent. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna consider that.
Won't they get in trouble though? Because I thought that sellers have a contract with the agent. Mm-hmm. So won't they get in trouble for breaking that contract?
Yeah, he was saying that when that happens, the guy can cancel that contract.
What do you mean?
Like you can tell him, I don't want you to be my thing anymore, my agent. I'm assuming that there's usually like a time period, but I don't. This is what I'm thinking, that if the person says you're my agent for this property, it's like, I don't know. I'm just thinking that you could just cancel it whenever you want, because we don't sell my house anymore. Like, what if you try to sell my house? I'm like, I don't want to sell it anymore.
That's what I'm wondering, because it's a contract. So can you just void the contract that you have with the agent? Like, how does that work?
I would think so. Probably so you could terminate it the same way we terminate contracts when we're buying. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey, here's a termination letter. You signed it. I signed it. We're good to go. And then he would come back to me and be like, all right, it's off market, and then do that.
That's kind of crazy.
It is. So, like I said, that's what he was saying to do. I'm like, I'll think about it. Now, here's the craziest thing about all of this. That happened probably, that might have been the third week of us wholesaling, maybe the fourth week of us wholesaling. I think it was. I think that was the third or fourth week of us wholesaling that I had got that property under contract. And it just didn't work out because Jerry wanted an extra $5,000 on it that they didn't want to come up to. I said all 2021 is going to be wholesaling. I want to make six figures in wholesaling. Like, I want to make a minimum of $100,000 this year in wholesaling. January 1st, the day after New Year, so December 31st, then that morning, January 1st, I got a text from that actual seller who was saying, hey, from the agent. Mind you, I did not hit them up yet. I didn't call them. I didn't text them. I didn't do anything. They just randomly texted me and said, hey, do you still want to buy the property? So I'm like, what? Like, let me see if I can find a text message. I'll put it on the screen. So I'm just like, well, what are the odds that the day after I talk to this person in Philadelphia, that this other person then contacts me and says, hey, I'll do the deal with you. January 1st, I get this text and the person says, hey, Donivan, do you want to do this deal? Still, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Now, like I said earlier, for this particular property, we had said that we were going to do $130,000 for the property. Jerry told me if I can get it for $135, then it will work for him. they had came down to 140 from 180 if we pay the transfer taxes, which would be about $143,000. So there was like an $8,000 discrepancy. So I was willing to split that with the agent and say, hey, if you pay some of this out of your commission, I pay the other half out of my commission. We can kind of figure this out. He wasn't really willing to do it. He was saying that because what would have had to happen was once I get the $10K from Jerry, then I would come back around and say, hey, to the seller, here's the amount of money that I was going to give you. And I understand that that's not. It's not a very, I guess, probable thing that will happen, and I can see how it would be kind of iffy for somebody to do. Like, why would you come back and pay me if you don't have to? So I understand that, but I was trying to figure out a creative way to get that deal done, and they ended up saying no, they didn't want to do it. I'm like, all right, cool, I understand. So I get a text after that where he says to me, hey, will you do 125? And I'm like, 125? That is, what's that? Almost 20K lower than the price that you gave me before and 10K lower than what Jerry said that he would do for the deal. So I'm like, oh, absolutely. Like 100% we could do that. So I said, yeah, sure, that will work. Sounds good. I haven't got, that was January 1st. It's January 3rd. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I haven't gotten a response back. I was talking to Leandra. She was saying that what I should do is text them what the terms of the contract are before he writes it up. So I'm like, all right, bet. So Leandra, she's like an OG. Like I'm talking about, she's pressing people getting $100 EMD on market properties. She's getting 15-day plus due diligence period. She's killing it. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take some of her tactics that she gave me and I'm gonna use that. So I'm gonna see what ends up happening with this, because this would be my first deal if it closes. If not, it is what it is. I was not thinking about this deal anymore until I talked to the guy in Philly about it. So after that, I'm like, if it happens, it happens. If it don't, it don't. But now, like I said, that I have dispositions, honestly, in Atlanta. I'm going to come to that, too, because I now have a disposition in Baltimore. So Atlanta, Baltimore, Missouri, because that's where Leandra is at. And she has somebody that does it all across the country. I think I have somebody in Indiana. I have to check again. But like I said, I'm pretty sure when it comes to getting leads out, that's covered now. So now all I got to do is get a lead. So next time I get a good deal, it should be out the door, and we should be getting paid for that. Like I said earlier, I'm building a team, right? So I'm trying to build like the Avengers, where everybody comes together. We're all doing, different things around the whole country. And Raydon, who's in Baltimore, he just started wholesaling again. He started doing it before, like last year, and then this year he started up again this year. He does something that I don't really do, which is when somebody asks me if he's a wholesaler, he says yes. Now, normally, if anybody asks me if you should say that, I always say no. I'm like, don't tell them you're a wholesaler. I would say that. This is usually my line I'll give. Hey, Donivan, are you a wholesaler? I'm an investor. If I want a wholesaler, the numbers don't work, I'll end up doing that, or I'll keep it for myself. That's something along those lines what I'll tell somebody, because I'm like, sometimes I do wholesale, sometimes I don't, because most people who are in real estate do that. Sometimes they wholesale, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they flip, sometimes they rent. So it's like, if I'm an investor, I do multiple different things. So to ask me, am I only a wholesaler, is kind of doing disservice to myself for me to say, yes, I'm only a wholesaler. He has told people he's a wholesaler. Like, this has happened. Like I said, he just started up again recently. So he's talking to people on the phone. He's talking to agents. And he's like, yeah, I do wholesale when they ask. And he's had a good response. The first person he talked to, they were like, okay, that's fine. That's cool. He said the person that he talked to the first time, the agent, was in Georgia. And they were like, all right, cool, no problem. And everything was good. The second time, it was in Baltimore. And that one was phenomenal. He was trying to get a property under contract. When he called the agent's like, hey, I have a bunch of other property. No, they said that this one is not going to work. It's either sold or it's being sold or something like that. So when they were on the phone, he had asked the agent, hey, do you have any other properties that, would be good for investors? And the agent said, yeah, sure, absolutely. So they sent him the website that they have. Once he got on the website, he saw that they were a wholesaler. So he had called them and said, hey, are you a wholesaler or an agent? And the person said, yeah, I do both. So that's when he said to them, listen, I'm also a wholesaler. I'm new. I think he said I'm 25 or I'm 26. Just kind of, can you give some information about it? What can you tell me? So she said, listen, I have somebody who's your age, my son, and he's been wholesaling. I've been teaching him how to wholesale. He does about 5 deals a month. I've actually had to, I've taught some other people about wholesaling, and I have no problem helping you. So if you have a deal, you can send it to me. I have people all around Baltimore. She said she's been doing wholesaling or real estate for about 40 years. I think she said 30 or 40 years in Baltimore. So she has a huge cash buyers list. So she said, listen, if you find a deal, you can send it to me. I'll look it over. If it's a good deal, we can talk about it, what doesn't work, what does work, which is similar to what I have with Leandra, which is people who are new to wholesaling will understand that this is a great thing to have, because if you can send somebody a lead, at least somebody that knows more about than you do, they may be able to go, hey, You miss this, you miss that, you miss this. This is why it's not worth that. This is how much you can get for it. So she said she would do that for him just because of the strength of him being honest about being a wholesaler. She said she also has helped other people, like 2 other people, and they got to a point where now they don't even ask her for help. They only bring her, once they have a lead, they bring it to her, and she gets it bought by somebody else, one of her cash buyers. So now he has somebody in Baltimore who has a lot of experience, who they're willing to help, because that's a big thing too. And they also said that they will go to the property to take pictures. They'll even go with him to the property to take a picture. So it's just amazing, because it's like now you have somebody who can go with you to take pictures, somebody who will go with you and more or less speak on your behalf. Because a lot of times people think that if you take somebody to see a buyer or to see a seller and the agent is there, they might try and go behind your back and then, get you out of the deal or pay you less or things like that. So now you have somebody who knows what you're doing, who has experience, who when they go, they can actually help you. So I just think that that's so fire that happened. Like I said, I think that 2021 is going to be a really big year for us wholesaling. So I guess I'm excited about that. Another reason why I'm happy that I met Leandra, because we had went over a property that I had talked about before. If you guys know, you've listened to the last couple of weeks of of this series, then you'll know that I've talked about a developer. So there's a developer that I have, or he says he's a developer. He's a developer. He has a family property, and he's been trying to sell it to me for weeks now, right? Almost probably a month at this point. And at first, when I heard about it, I was like, oh, great. I got it from another agent. They referred me to them. I said, oh, this is going to be a good deal. I had budgeted the renovation for about $90K. And he said, oh, wow, you're really seasoned. You must know what you're doing. I want to work with you. I'm like, okay, sure. So at the time, I'm talking to a contractor. I'm like, hey, can you go over there and check out the property for me? I'll pay you $100 and, so on and so forth. I thought it was going to be a good deal, so I didn't mind paying $100. So he went there only to tell me that it's going to be $200,000 worth of renovation. Now, I said 90. The developer said 93. He said 200 or something. So I'm like, damn, that's crazy, because I'm the least experienced one here. And I need to find out what the real price is. Because if I know what the real renovation cost is, then I can find out, okay, is this worth wholesaling? What can I do with this property? How much should I buy it for? He was selling it at 150. The ARV is like 330 and up, probably in that area. I show Leandra the pictures. This is why it's very valuable to have somebody like this around you, because I was able to show her the pictures, right? We went through all the pictures, and she was able to break down, because like I said before, she has been doing construction before. She's been flipping her own properties and renovating things. So she's able to break down, oh, there's a huge crack in the basement. It's attached to a pipe. The pipe is for plumbing. So if it's attached to that pipe for plumbing and it's separating from there, it's probably going to move that pipe over, which can cause leaking. She was showing me a lot of different things in the building and just breaking down what each one of them means. For example, one of them is the drop ceiling. So people who don't know, think of like an office building where you see those lines in the ceiling and it has like a square. So think of like a bunch of squares in the ceiling and have a light on it. That's what you might see in an office building, right? As opposed to a residential building where you live at, it's mostly going to be drywall. You see like on the wall behind me will be on the ceiling. It looks exactly the same. She was saying that most people don't put those drop ceilings inside of a residential house unless something is wrong. So she would say that, yeah, you see that all of this drop ceilings everywhere. There's probably water damage above that, or something's wrong with the ceiling above it. And she said she wouldn't be surprised that has something to do with the plumbing from the basement, where there's a huge foundation crack in the floor. And I was telling her, the price that he had gave me, the itemized list that he gave me for how much it would cost to fix everything. And she was laughing because she's just like, that sounds crazy. She's like, yeah, if you want to spend $100 to fix a foundation, you probably could. It won't work, but you could spend $100 to try. You could get a brick and then lay it one time and then say I did the foundation. Anybody, you can do that if you want to, but it's probably not going to work. So she was going over that with me, breaking down the price of everything, how much it would cost to fix that. She was breaking down the windows, the rust, the mold. She was breaking down the water damage. She was saying at this point, the house probably is closer to $200,000 renovation, because it's about it's about 1,900 square feet. So she was saying that it's going to be closer to 200,000. It's nowhere near 90. Like, it's not going to be 90,000 to fix that house. So she told me this house is pretty much, you shouldn't even use this house anymore. The house should be knocked down and just use the land. So she was saying to go on the website for the city and find how much the land is worth and then offer the amount of the land for that property. She was saying that the only kind of people that would probably want to buy this house is a developer who can use the land and make something out of it, or somebody who wants to live in the house. So they would renovate it and then live in it themselves. So they wouldn't actually flip it, because if let's say you want to renovate it and live in it, then you could, let's say you can buy it for, what is it? It's at 130. Buy it for 130, maybe put 150 into it, that put you at 280, and you just have a nice house that you live in yourself. And you don't have to worry about trying to flip it for a profit or anything like that. You just keep it and you just live there because it's like an older looking house. So she's like, yeah, those are the kind of people who are going to want to buy this house. And maybe, I think she said somebody for a rental, possibly. But anything else other than that, it's not going to be a good deal for any of them. Like I said, her telling me that, it was very valuable because it's another perspective to look at a house. Because I've never even thought to look at how much the land is worth for a house. I know a lot of people say you could buy the land and, you know, things like that. People actually do wholesale and flip land, and actually have a buyer that says he would buy land, but I don't really know how to comp land. I'm not really sure how to go about even looking for what good land is. That's not something I was doing before. So now that I have people that can either point me in the right direction for what is a good deal for land and somebody that will buy land, now I'm going to get more into learning what would be a good price to get land at to wholesale it. So I'm probably not going to end up doing that deal. I'm going to offer them the value of the land for that and see what they say. But anything other than that, I'm probably trying to let that deal go. And it kind of sucks. I don't think it sucks because I was talking to somebody else in Philadelphia. Shout out to TJ. And we were trying to figure out who we can get to buy the property. But if this is what I'm hearing about the property, I would hate to JV with him and then somebody comes in there like, yo, what the fuck is this? You told me it was worth this and it's not worth that. And I think it makes both of us look bad. And I wouldn't want his cash buyer to look at him bad, and I wouldn't want him to be like, damn, this probably not what we thought it was. So I'm like, I'd rather just not deal with it. I mean, yeah, I don't know, because I'm like, that's how I feel about it. But I don't know if his cash buyer might see it and go, hey, I still want to buy it. I don't, this is why I always say the whole cash buyer thing over deals thing.
I get what you're saying, but I think the way that the first way that you're thinking about it would be the best way, because it's like, you don't want to sour that relationship because you want them to keep buying from you. Yeah,
and but that's the thing.
It's like a bad buy.
If they want it though.
I mean, I think if you are like transparent about this is not for the house, it's for the land, then yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, that's what I don't. Because my thing is this: what if somebody wants to buy it for the house? I don't know, because I wouldn't do that. She wouldn't do that. But I'm saying somebody would do that.
Yeah, but like as long as you're clear and upfront about everything that you know about it, then it shouldn't be a problem. But like, you would have to be clear and upfront about the pipe thing, the rotting studs and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's another thing too. She was saying that in the picture that she showed me that the leaking in the building probably would cause the studs to be moldy, which means you have to replace all of that. So it's like, and I think she said there was fire damage she saw a little bit in the back of the house on the garage. So it's craziness. Like
the house is pandemonium.
It's fire, mold in the studs. You got to replace those. There's leaks. There's plumbing. There's foundational issues. You probably got to put a new roof on there. I'm pretty sure that was in the itemized. What is that called? That they give you the scope of work. I'm pretty sure it was on there too about a new roof. It's what I'm saying. It's like building a new house would be easier. Yeah. Because you just knock this house down and build a new one. This one you're like, okay, take out this stud, add a new stud here, take off this roof, add a new roof here, add this, but take this. It's just a lot of stuff. So if somebody wants to buy that, I don't know why you'd want to do that. If you do know, you let me know why you want to buy it, because I wouldn't know, and that's a new perspective for me. Because everybody I've talked to is saying like, yo, just forget the house. And they're trying to sell it for $150. So I forgot about this too. So me and TJ were actually going over this last week, trying to figure out, okay, before I even talked to Leandra about any of this, we were like, how can we figure out because does he own it? Is he a developer? Is he a wholesaler? Because he wants a $15,000 EMD. And I'm like, damn, that sounds suspicious. I talked to Leandra about it. She's like, that's wild. He wants $15,000. He's probably trying to scam everybody. Like, he's doing something that's kind of fishy. Everybody's like, nah, I don't seem right. So I'm talking to TJ. He's trying to look it up on the internet to see, okay, does he actually own this property? Who actually owns this property? Is he related to them in some way? So we were looking that up, and he's actually on a different property that is connected to this property. So it's kind of confusing. The person that owns this property, let's say the name is Joe, right? And Sarah. Joe and Sarah own this property. He's not on that list of people who own a property, but Joe and Sarah also own a second property which he is on. Not this one, but a different one. So that means he probably does have a relationship somehow with Joe and Sarah. Maybe they said, hey, can you sell this house for us? Maybe that's what happened. But yeah, so I'm gonna call him about it, because two things that I've learned. Well, one thing I've learned talking to Leandra, because I had to do it twice, is even as much as I've been cold calling and doing wholesaling and trying to get out of my comfort zone, there are still more things I'm in now as far as comfort zones that I have to break out of. So 2 things that she told me to do was just call him, offer the land price. I'm like, all right, you gonna do it because you've been doing this before. I'm gonna call him and see what happens.
What is the land price?
Like $30,000.
So you wasn't gonna tell us that. You wasn't gonna tell me and the audience that you're gonna offer $30,000 for this house that they have listed for $150,000.
It's not listed, but he offered. He brought it down $12K. That's funny too. I was on the phone. I think I was on the phone with TJ or talking to him, and as I was texting him, the guy texted me like, "Hey, we lowered the price $12,000. Do you want to do it?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna get back to you on that." But yeah.
Did Jerry say they were gonna do this one?
I never showed it to them. I never got it in the contract. I went on the website. She told me that what you do to find a land price is go to the city's website for real estate, and then you would put in that address, and it will give you, based off of the taxes, it will give you the taxable amount for the house, and then I think the price of the land is next to it, and then you would offer something around that. So I'm gonna try that. The second thing that she had told me to do, which again out of my comfort zone, is after the person that came to me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this deal with you for 125," I was in my head, I'm ecstatic. I didn't do that much over text, but in my head I'm like, "Oh shit, we have to close this deal." But she was like, "Listen, push back a little bit. Now that they came back to you, push a little bit. Go say, hey, I need this. These are concessions that I need. I need $100 EMD. I need 15-day inspection period. I need 30-day close." And I think it was something else that she said. Now, I was gonna be like, yeah, facts. I can put all those things on there and then like try to soften them with something else. But I said, nah. I'm gonna try and break out of my comfort zone, because if it works, that just shows me that I can do more when doing wholesaling. So now when I talk to somebody else, I can say, listen, I'm only doing $100 EMD. That is what it is. Who does that? Actually, I've done deals before for $100 EMD. So you can't tell me it's not a thing. So, but it has to happen first. It was mostly for me to get out of my comfort zone to do, and that's kind of why I did that. That's kind of update on that part of that deal. We're gonna see what happens. Tomorrow's Monday. I don't know if they work on the weekends. He texted me on Friday. He hasn't responded to me over the weekend, but he did read my message about the $100 EMD and everything else, but no response. So we're gonna see by tomorrow. We're gonna see if I get a deal. We all know, and if I get this deal right, it will either be for Jerry for $10,000, or I could probably wholesale it for more than the 10 because they came down from Jerry's original price. So we're gonna see. I'm very excited to see where this goes. I might not even get a response. I might not ever hear from him again. But at least we tried. This is something too, because I was talking to my other guy, the team. Like I said, we're building the Avengers over here. Okay, so one of the other Avengers that we have, that's what I'm gonna call him. One of the other Avengers that we have, he's in Indianapolis. So he had got a property under contract. We've been working, over the last 2 weeks. He reached out. We trying to run numbers and things like that. And I'm like, hey, I could add you to the prop stream team member thing, and you could just send me the money, and you just go crazy and look for all leads you want to find. So he's been going at it. He's been finding deals all the time, right? Or finding leads all the time. So he had got his first, I think this is his first property he got under contract. Now, something similar happened with him, and something similar happened with the guy in Baltimore that I was talking about before. And that honestly happened with me, my first deal that I got. So with me and the Avenger in Indianapolis, or Indiana, whatever, the same place more or less. He got the property at a discount, right? It was listed at $190. He got it for, I think, $175. With me on my first property, it was listed at $80. I think I got it for $60. So it's my first property. I'm new to wholesale. I'm thinking, yo, I got them to come down. It's definitely a deal. It's 100%. It's 100% a deal. There's no way it's not a deal. They had listed at $80. They came down $20,000. It's a deal. Well, what I found out was I was completely wrong. It was not a deal at all. And I had to end up terminating that contract because it was not a deal. Anybody that I brought it to, actually, I think it was listed at $90 and I got it for $70. That's what ended up happening. And I brought it to everybody else and they were like, I'll buy it, but it had to be at 50 or 55. I'm like, 50 or 55? I'm like, I got it down like $20,000. I'm like, you may go down another 30? Oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. So that was my first deal. Now with him in Indiana, he got it down, right? But everybody I showed it to was like, nah, that number's not gonna work. Because what happened was, this is why I don't trust the description boxes for these agents. This agent has a description that the property is worth, once you move out some walls, $400,000 to $500,000. However, there are no properties, no comps in that area that show that. right? But she just somehow said, yep, I'm telling you, 400 to 500,000. That's what you're going to get when you flip this property. I ran the numbers on it. I'm like, my ARV I'm getting is 270 or 280, something like that. She got 400 to 500,000. What she was trying to say was that the property is on 2 different lots. So because it's on two different lots, then you could use the other lot for another house or something like that. So I'm like, sure, maybe. But that's not what she was talking about in the description. So he got the property in the contract. Everybody I said showed it to said, nah, it's not worth $400,000. Shout out to Leandra again, because that's what we're talking about. She put me on the game. She was like, first of all, if that's the case, if it is a property that's on 2 plots, it has to be he has to find out, is that plot subdividable? Because if it's not, you can't just build another house next to it. It has to be big enough to be able to build another house, because in 2020 they changed the lot sizes for how much you want, the amount of space you need to build a house on, and you have to go through a process to see if they'll even let you build that property on a smaller plot, or if the plot is the right size. Then on top of that, it's a lot of bureaucracy. So you have to go through all of these different channels to figure out if you can even do it. You have to have a poll. She was telling me that she had a property before, and she got through the whole process of getting the land divided so that she could have another property on that land. And it came down to one person voting, and they said no. It was a bunch of people, and one person was like no.
They have to vote on it?
Everybody in that neighborhood has to vote on whether or not you could build another house there. I didn't know that.
Bruh, mind you, I ran into the same situation in Georgia.
Right? Yep.
And they try to do the same thing with me, like, oh no, the value is in the land. There's 2 different plots. You can split it up. The value is in the land. And it's like, oh wow, you really trying to get people out here,
right?
Because that's crazy.
So now, anybody listening to this, and for me, when I'm negotiating, I'm gonna say, listen, I understand it's on 2 plots, but it's COVID right now. It ain't gonna be easy to just be able to divide those 2 plots, if they're even dividable. I have to go through a whole process to get that stuff done. So I'm gonna value this property as of what I'm looking at right here. This is what I see. I'm valuing this. If you want to go and split the lots yourself and then bring that to me, then we could talk. But you talking about is one piece of land right here, and that's what I'm about to buy. I'm not buying it as if it's 2 plots. So she was saying that property would only be good for a developer. The developer could come in and they would know how to go through the process, splitting the plots. They would know what comes with doing all of that. They didn't know to knock down the house, anything like that. And she told me all of that. I'm just listening like, yo, this is crazy, because I had no idea this even, like I said, I don't do land. I've never done land before. So the lady is still telling him, like, just knock down the wall and you can make 400,000. I'm like, ain't no way you knock down the wall and increasing the value $200,000. It's not gonna happen. It's not happening.
What wall are they telling you to knock down?
It's an agent, so agents don't really know real estate. So she's like, just do something, and it'll be worth the other number. And it's like, because there's no way you could tell. There's no way you could know real estate and say knocking down the wall would raise the value $200,000. Like, it's nothing. There's no way to prove that, unless she was saying add another house by connecting this wall to the new house next door you're gonna build, and then there'll be 2 houses. Then sure. If we're gonna put 2 houses here and connect them by 1 wall, then yeah, we'll have a $400,000 house. But he might end up having to terminate that contract. Now, my guy in Baltimore, what he had found a lead in Atlanta. Now, similar situations, but this is why I realized that it comes down to multiple things. I'm gonna say numbers for sure it comes down to, but I definitely think that if you're getting a property for a list price, you're probably not getting a deal. That's just my rule of thumb, because they're probably going to list the price or list the property higher than it's actually worth. So if you're getting it at list, or if you're getting it a little bit under list, you're probably not really a good deal. Now it can be, but my experience is that it's not. He had the property under contract. It was listed at $99,900. He got it for $99,900. He said, you know what, I'm going to buy it at this exact price. The number that he had got, what we came up with was like, okay, hey, this will work at $99,900 if you renovate it. And it would have worked at $99,900 if we renovated it. However, this is why it's good to know people who are in the business. So I had the guy that I know, other Avenger in Atlanta. I said, he's a contractor and a cash buyer. I said, hey, yo, what do you think about this property? Like, would you buy this? He was like, you know what's funny? Somebody sent me that property the other day, and they would knock the whole house down. So he was like, if I had to knock the whole house down, it would cost me like $185,000. We did not estimate $185K for our renovation. So that automatically throws our numbers way off, like way off. So now the house is no longer a deal because it has to be knocked down completely. So he was going to wholesale a property for 100 and 110.
What renovation cost did you have?
Whatever heavy was. So I think we had like, we might have had 80.
And then why does it need to be knocked down? Did he say?
We can't see the inside. So they only have pictures of the outside. And it's like a tree. I'll put the picture up. I'll show it to you too. I'll put the picture up on the screen of what it looks like.
Especially if you can't see the insides. How do you know you would have to knock it down? Like, I'm just curious, like, what markers did he see that let him know that this is something that needs to be torn down?
But he's in Atlanta.
So so he went and
somebody else brought it to him earlier.
And he went and saw the property himself.
I don't know if he saw. He was saying that the other guy wanted to knock it down completely. That's what he was saying. He said it had to be knocked down. And then on the Zillow thing, it says go in house at your own risk. With that, it's an extra $90,000 to do that renovation for the house or rebuild the whole house. And I think the ARV for that house is probably maybe let's say it's $250 or something like that. If I'm buying a house at $90 and I'm wholesaling it for $110, and if somebody comes in, knocks it down, we at $285. And the ARVs are like $260. There's no way that number's gonna work. So my rule of thumb for anybody listening is, for me, what I like to do is if it's not a really good discount, or if I don't negotiate a deal, then it's probably not gonna be a deal. If I just get it easy, I always go, nah, it was too easy for me. Something don't seem right about that.
And then especially when I started to realize that too. How much were they offering for it?
$99.9.
Yeah, I feel like I already told y'all. Me personally, I don't like looking at houses that are less than $100,000. They're typically way overvalued. So that means that overvalued, you think that this house is worth $99,000. Mm-hmm. So that means okay, so if we instantly in your head kind of chop off $20,000 to $30,000, and that's how much the house is maybe worth. Because sometimes they just throw a number out there just because the area could go for that much, even though their house might be really worth 30, 20, 50, or the land that it's on.
People who are new will probably get confused by this or might even get scared off. But you'll see a property, right? And let's say it's worth it's listed at $300,000, right? And you're like, okay, I want to run the numbers and see if this is a deal. You'll find a comp right next door, which is at $320, and you're like, this house is fully renovated at $320. Mm-hmm. The one at $300 is not. It's a shit show in there. Why is it listed at $300? Trust your instinct. They're lying. That doesn't make any sense. The house is fully renovated, is sold at $320. This other house on there is being sold for $300, and it needs a full renovation. There's no way that that's the actual value of the house. So when you go into it, you can tell them that, hey, listen, I know as well as you know this property is not worth $300,000. Now, this is what I think it's worth, and I'll offer this for it. And then you kind of have that conversation. And
then another thing too, it's kind of like the situation that you see Donivan and I both had, where it's the seller's no, it is worth this much, or I'm not gonna take that because it's too low. And then here we are, a month, 2 months, 3 months later, and they're like, this shit still ain't sell. How much that person over there said they wanted? Right. Or you could. In Donovan's case, because they reached back out to him, I personally reached back out to them, and he came down $7,000. So it sometimes is a waiting game, because it's not. If it's really not worth that much, nobody's gonna buy it for that price.
And it was listed at $150. The one in Georgia you had.
Yeah, mine was listed at $150.
And they came down. First they came down to $137, and then she negotiated. Now they came back again, and now they want.
They want $130.
It was $130. So give it a couple more weeks. And this is why I always say that this is an endurance game. Wholesaling. Probably real estate in general is a game of endurance, and it's just lasting. It's a marathon. It's a bunch of following up, keeping in contact with people.
I just think it's funny. I'm starting to think everything is an endurance game.
Yeah. So then that's what it is, because I hit you up 4 months ago, but things happen. So now who knows? Maybe by March somebody hits me up and say, hey, you still want to do that deal, because their numbers are running out. So I'm like, hey, I'm still here, and when you build that connection and keep following up, people keep remembering you. You're like, oh yeah, I do remember that Donivan wants to buy property from me. Let me just send him this deal I just came across real quick. And that doesn't come from what you did today. That comes from what you did weeks or months ago. That's how it works. So what you do today is what you're gonna get back from it in the future. You're not getting that back right now. So just put in all the work now. That's what I'm looking at it, because I know at some point, like with this deal in Philadelphia, it'll come back around. And I think a lot of people who start wholesaling is they think that it's oh, I'm not moving right now. I'm putting a lot of work in, but I'm not getting anything out of it. And it's it's almost like a tree that you put in the ground. The tree don't grow overnight. You have to give it some time to grow, but you still plant the seed. And that's what I've been realizing with wholesaling is honestly, that's the same moniker of the bamboo project. It's nothing is built overnight. It comes after you've been putting in the seed and growing things and things like that. You've been watering it, which means you're following up with people, which means you're reaching back out, doing things like that, sending them, hey, Happy New Year's, whatever the case might be, and you just keep that connection with them. There's still people at the end of the day. People forget that these other people are actual people. They have lives, they have emotions, they have feelings and things they're going through. They have dogs they want to talk about. I want people to understand that this is definitely an endurance game. That's what I've learned, is that it's not a quick, oh, I'm about to make $10,000 real quick. I'm about to make $100,000 real quick. And you might make a deal in the first couple of months, or you might not make a deal the first couple of months and then make a bunch of deals at the end of the year. Like, that could happen too. So, but if you stop doing it, you're not going to make any of those deals at all. People are going to forget about you. You're going to lose faith in it, that it works. I haven't gotten a deal yet, but like I said, I remember where I was at before, where I'm like, I need to find cash buyers. I don't know how to find cash buyers. I have a bunch of people that are cash buyers now. So now, all I can do is find deals. So before it was like, how do I find deals? How do I run comps? I didn't know how to do that. Honestly, it was how do I get cash buyers? That was pretty much it. And now we here. I got a bunch of people that can be cash buyers. So like I said earlier, I'm going to do like a little, rapid fire situation of things that I kind of learned. It's really short. It's not long. One thing that people have done that I found that's a different way of looking at it. I'm curious how everybody else does it. I do price per square foot up to find my comps. The only thing that happens with that is that larger houses usually sell for more price per square foot. I've been realizing that other people use the average price of all the sold homes. So I'm curious what other people do, because like I said, I was going back and forth with that. I've actually met somebody in Philly who does it the same way I do it, but most people don't really do it that way. So it's just kind of like I don't know if it's a preferential thing or one is better than the other. Using link properties on PropStream to be able to find cash buyers and other properties that they're selling. That's something that I got put onto this week. And for people who are wholesalers, if you don't know, this REI Reply, which would be good for you. Look up Intellius, Intellilius, and then Landglide. These all, shot to me by my guy Brad in Philly. I don't use any of these, but this is people put me onto this. Like I said before, I don't do on market stuff, but when I do start doing it, I'm gonna start to use these type of tools. So, what else? I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Only other update that I have is that we bought the Airbnb course yesterday. So, just know that we are doing that simultaneously while we're also doing the wholesaling.
So I think that wraps it up for
episode 12.
Yeah, month 3 into wholesaling. I'm excited. Yeah, still no deal. But like I said earlier, I feel like it's gonna come a time where I'm just like, got another one. Yeah, I'm gonna
be like, damn, they keep getting all these deals.
And you can go back and watch the series and see how we ended up at that point where we're gonna be. So with that being said, Bamboo Project out.